to school, a lot of your school colleagues, especially the female ones, will start a story. They start a story, they call your name or they tell you something, and then when you respond, they run and they complain to sir or they run and complain to miss. And I suspect it's something that not only confined to the female, in my days, preteen and teenagers, but I guess some other categories do the same thing. And I want to also preface this thing by saying that my mother, God rest the dead, always warned me about how I deal with Lil Boy, Dog, and the other category. She warned me. But for today, I can ignore the warning for a while because I need to address some issues. I need to address some issues. Now, they say under a caption, short boss remain boss as president extend the top cup tenure. That is on the 7th of August. Let me quote a part of the thing, part of the same thing. I read the whole thing. I talk about the Akin extension. Somehow he feels, or I say he again, I can guess who. She, he, it, them, they, whatever it is. Whatever they choose to describe themselves at. He said, when Norton's party, the PNC, had the last government under the David Grazer presidency, Akin's upward mobility in the Ghana police force was stifled, even as several persons who were junior to him were promoted ahead of him. I can address that because I know about that. And let me address it right away. The people, first of all, we need to address how Akin became senior to those persons. And I can tell you how. Akin became senior because the people in Rob Street and the man who been in Brickdam chose to disregard what the police service commission had recommended and insert his name and deleted the name of another far more qualified senior officer. That man took them to court and won. Understand this? This thing, understand. So that is how he became senior. He jumped the people them, and because the people in Rob Street and the man in Brickdam put the name, scratch out this man name, put the name, man took them to court, the man won the case. When the others were promoted, when the people were promoted, I was the chairman of the Police Service Commission, Kanye was a member, interviews were conducted, resumes were requested and submitted. And that man who you're batting for was the most unqualified of the group. He was the most unqualified, not in terms of academic qualification, not in terms of that. He had issues relating to his conduct in Linden. He had issues relating to his conduct at the Commission of Inquiry into the Linden issue. So go and do your research. Then he goes on, or he, she, it, then goes on to say, he said one of the comic strip gimmicks, or on a comic strip gimmick, two former police ranks would often use their time to vilify the top cop, his executive leader team, and ranks and file of the force. Well, I challenge you to say whenever these persons are vilified, we talk facts, and if facts are them, that is their business. If the facts are them, that is their business. Again, they say, let it come to say whatever we're saying is untrue. And then hear what the thing said. It should be noted that the force administration at the time they served did not see it fit to recommend either of the two ranks for promotion to the post of deputy commissioner or deputy commissioner of police or commissioner of police to be it substantive or acting. Let me address that. CC, you will get a chance to address it from your perspective. Let me address that. Let me invite one and all, including that thing, to read. It's a Kaichor News letter dated June 11, 2010. Kaichor News letter dated June 11, 2010. It is authored by Malcolm Aripal. I can read the whole thing, but I'm going to read just a part. It says, Dear editor, I have read the outpourings of Paul Slowe since his retirement parade and the accolades bestowed on him by members of the public. I now write to record another facet of this story, which clearly typifies the hypocrisy of the Jagans and the consequences of their poor decision as personified in Ronald Gadraj. My respect for Slowe is so much that prior to the 1992 elections, in a national security plan that I had prepared at Dr. Jagan's request, I had recommended him to be the new Commissioner of Police. I stated then that I did not know of Slowe's political affiliation, but that he was a truly professional officer who would uphold the Constitution and laws, regardless of which party was in power, and that with the aid of the United Nations, he would reform and restructure the police force. Another part of the letter he says, hear what he says. Paul Slowe back then was an assistant superintendent. He was well respected for his professionalism, integrity, honesty, and personal accomplishment in the police force. Gadraj issues an unlawful order to Slowe, who declined to obey and instead abided by the laws of the land. Paul Slowe was then victimized by non-promotion. And then here we go on, the last part of the said, the Paul Slowe Ronald Gadraj case should be a case study for all students of Guyana's politics. That is Malcolm Harry Paul, and again, the date is June 11, 2010 in the Kaicho News. There is only one. Let me tell him about why Slowe. So Slowe was never involved, never accused, never involved in any corruption, unprofessional conduct, incompetence. That wasn't, nobody can accuse Slowe of that. And again, I say, I have been out to the force over 13 years. I have been on this program almost 2, and they can't come and say that. They cannot come and say that, right? And let me go on to tell you, want to know why Slowe wasn't promoted? Slowe wasn't promoted because he stood up to Jagdeo. Go and ask Bharat Jagdeo why Slowe wasn't promoted. He wanted me to, Gadraj wanted me to do something which I considered to be unlawful, unethical. And I stood up and I said, no. I said, no, I'm not going to do that. Jagdeo summoned me, as president, summoned me to his office at office to the president and tried to persuade me that I should apologize to Ronald Gadraj. And I told him face to face that I was not going to apologize because I had not done anything wrong. I told him further that if Gadraj should reduce into writing what he's alleging that I did wrong, I may be inclined to apologize. And he tell me all sort of thing. Yeah, that was a Wednesday. I get the dates. I get everything there. And then he said the conversation ended. I left and I went back to Borby's where I was in command. And the Monday following, I was in the office conducting a meeting with my officers. When the phone on my desk rang, I picked up the phone and it was Jagdeo himself. Said he wanted to speak to Commander Slowe. I said, speaking. And then he said that he had expected the apology by then. And I continued to insist that I was not going to apologize. And then he told me that if I did not apologize to Gadraj by that Monday afternoon, he was going to side with Gadraj and I was going to suffer the consequences. I said, well, bring it on. I have no fear. Bring it on. And I never apologized to Gadraj because I had not done anything wrong. So the fact that I spent 11 years plus as an assistant commissioner, Mr. Ting, Mrs. Ting, or Ting, whatever it is, had nothing to do with lack of qualification. It had to do with the vindictive nature of the then president. It had to do with the vindictive nature. Let me tell you further. As I said, the gloves are off. Go to the National Security Advisor. Go to the National Security Advisor. Let me give you let me tell you, hold on. Go to the National Security Advisor and ask him about a meeting. And on Tuesday, the 25th of April 2006, ask the National Security Advisor about a meeting on Tuesday, the 26th of April 2006 in Campbellville. In Campbellville, when they were trying to persuade me, he and another man. The man wasn't there at the start. He called the man came. And the subject of the meeting, because at that time, I had indicated that I was leaving the force to migrate to join my family. And asked him about the content. I'm not going to tell you anything further about that. And let me tell you further thing, and for the benefit of all, When Gajraj was minister, 2 British consultants went to Ghana as part of the process to identify the commissioner to take over from Larry Lewis. I was shortlisted among the persons to be interviewed. At the time when the interviews were being conducted, I was in the United States of America on vacation. Another senior police colleague was also in the States. He called me one Saturday afternoon, and all these people around to verify what I'm saying, to tell me that the minister Gajraj was trying to get my telephone number. He wanted permission from me to give Gajraj my number. I said, go ahead, give him the number. He gave Gajraj the number. Shortly after, Gajraj called me at my home in New York to tell me that these interviews were going on, and they wanted me to go home to be interviewed by these people as a candidate for the commissioner of police work. And I tell him, he says, sorry, sir, I get appointments, and so I'm not breaking my vocation to come for anything so wishy-washy. And do you know that an arrangement was made for the 2 persons to travel to New York to interview me and the other senior officers at the I Commission in Manhattan? I attended there. I attended the meeting, and they told me what was the feeling of the administration then. They told me what was the feeling of the administration in terms of my qualification, in terms of my professionalism, and all of that. So this joker come and asking us that question. You can't impute my character. You cannot. Even go back to the Scottish when they were here, when they were to interview and to conduct reform and so on. I was the point person. They identified me as qualified and the person who should take over the force. The Scottish people who were in Ghana doing the reform, go and check the records when the IDB were doing the security sector reform. Find out who they identified as the most qualified person to take over and run the thing. And I was a point person in the reform until Green became commissioner and Roy became minister of home affairs. I call him the name because the records are there. And Green wrote to Roy to tell him that he wants to be, as a commissioner, he wants to be the person. That, notwithstanding the fact that the American and the British had sent a clear signal that they did not want Green to be commissioner because according to them, he had been in the pockets of the drug people. So Volkswagen is, I got more to talk. So Volkswagen is real and come again. And let me say this. I don't know, people say, why this thing picking on you? People commented when he wrote, why this thing picking on you? Picking on me because I called him out for his dishonesty once. In 2018, I called him out for his dishonesty. Well, I said him again, I said the wrong thing. I call it out for the dishonesty, right? I call it out for the dishonesty. And he has been picking fire rage since then. But I able and I ready. I'm not going to back down from something like that. I am not going to back down from something like that. And I am not the man. He said, next thing, last week on this program, we spoke about the accident involving the commander on the East Bank with the police vehicle. And shortly thereafter, the night or sometime after, News 9 break carried a story, and they put the wrong picture of they intended to put the commander's picture, but they put the picture of a man who had already retired, Prasad. They put that. And the man write a long thing, saying the thing write a long thing, criticizing, blaming Slowe for the fact that News 9 break put the wrong picture. And the thing said that Slowe get dossier on all the officers and he could tell you all the right picture. I get dossier on the officers, I know the thing. The dossier that I really want to see and get is the one that Mudwater get. Because Mudwater is the man who get a dossier saying that somebody does duck and Dharam Lal, duck and B. That is the one that I want to see. Who are the names and so on. And tickle me, I got pictures, I got pictures. Tickle me, let me wind more. I got pictures that I'm gonna show, right? Tickle me, I got pictures to show. And let me say this, as I said, Dr. Mudwater, and as I started by saying, that has come, like in the days, I remember Then your school colleagues, the females in particular, they start a story, and then when you respond, they will run to teacher, they will run to miss, they will run to sir. These days, you start a story, you go run to your colleagues in the force. But I'm waiting, I'm waiting, I'm waiting. So come again. So when you're trying to imply that Slowe did not promote it, it wasn't promoted to deputy commissioner or commissioner, and you're asking about what? About either competence and incompetence. What is that? It was due to incompetence, corruption, of lack of qualification. At the time I was qualified, I had a degree in public management, passed with credit. I had qualification from the Police Staff College, Bramshill in the UK. I had qualification from the FBI Academy and FBI Academy, and many more from the National Defense University of the US and all over. So when you talk about qualification, what qualification? The thing that you're back in, who sits in the chair get? What qualification? Apart from the board certificate and all them enough 2-hour course and 1-hour course that he attended. So don't come to me with qualification. I remain at the time, I was one of the more qualified persons in the police force. But Jack Dio decided to spite me. Well, he didn't really spite me because I retired with all my glory and all my honor in 2010. And as you know, God in your favor, I picked up my dream job thereafter and worked with that job for 11 years, right? 11 years. So let me understand. Let me understand. So somebody said blackout punches. Yeah, this is punches like Terrence, what the man named for the other day there. Blows. Come to you with a tube. Lack of qualification. Never, when talk about incompetence, that was never associated with me. Never associated with me. Let me understand. Never associated. I was credited with writing a national security plan along with some junior officers with me for the Cricket World Cup 2007. National security plan for the Cricket T20 World Cup 2010. And I spearheaded those operations on behalf of Guyana. The Women's T20 World Cup, the under 19 T20, the under 19 World Cup in the West Indies, I spearheaded those operations. The man who you're backing was asked to do one, and I get a copy of the crap that he wrote. When he wrote and he sent it in to the secretariat, they had to get on to me to find somebody to do it over. And I had to find another officer to do it over because the work that he did was unacceptable. And they were saying that it has to be corrected. I said, correct? You can never, ever correct that. It's better we pay somebody to get it done over. And they agreed, and they paid someone to get it done over. So don't come to me about incompetence. Don't talk to me about corruption. I have never been associated with those things. The policemen who work under me, many of them are on the live, like Pompey and Ulrich, and those guys will tell you that policemen feared me when it comes to that because they know if they were caught, if I got any whiff that they were corrupt, they were going to be charged, put before the court. I have been responsible for setting trap and catching several corrupt police officers. All we could remember that West Demerara, Georgetown, and elsewhere. So thing will and come again. Will and come again. Don't talk to me about corruption. And let me tell you this too. One of the reasons I wasn't promoted, the same man that I referred to earlier was Axie. When they broached the subject with the president then, the president told them, they tell me that the president said, by Slowe too independent. We can't make Slowe commissioner. Slowe got a mind of his own and he too independent. That is what they came back and they told me. That is what they came back and told me. When Felix retired, you must check for Ricky Singh right. If you can. You're supposed to be, you call yourself a journalist. Go do your research. Go do your research. And you will be able to find out. The respect that I commanded in all of my divisional commands. D Division, Borbies, Georgetown, elsewhere. Do you know that I was so respected thing that in 1994, I was sent to head the presidential guard when Dr. Jagan was the president. because they felt I was the only person, competent person to turn